what the world is really longing for right now are people with doing the work to develop themselves, their ideas, their voice, their insights, their professional conclusions, and they're and ready to answer the call to make a difference in their world through their work or through wherever they're positioned, whether that's in the home or in the boardroom, and then be free to speak authentically with that voice. That I think that's what we're waiting on. I think that
Yeah.
we're waiting on that revolution to take place, and that's why I say it's critical that we do this work to find who we really are authentically, and to use that to become masters of using that voice.
You look out into this world and say something's not okay, something's not right, and we need to start learning how to actually voice what's wrong and stand up for what's right and show up more, especially whether it's in the boardroom or in the bedroom at home. So wherever we are, we need to start speaking up more. If you think that this is the time to do that, then you're going to really enjoy meeting Dion Johnson in Let's Talk Courageous Communication. I have Dion Johnson with me. I want to introduce you to her because she is a multi-award-winning women's champion with the empowerment of women at the heart of all her work. She works behind the scenes in the world of global leadership as a master coach, a strategic ally, and a trusted advisor to some of the most influential women across sectors and industries. She's also written a book called Influential Woman, a fresh approach to tackling inequality and leading change at work. So welcome, Dion. It's wonderful to have you here.
Lovely,
First,
lovely. Yeah.
yeah, we could start off with you just telling us more about the story of how you got to be where you are today.
I love to say, I really do love to say that I think I was born for this work. And yeah, I really think my whole life, when you look, when you look back and you can join up all the dots, I can look back and see how everything about my life was preparing me to do this work with the women that I work with. So when I was in my mother's womb, I didn't develop conventionally. I was born with a pronounced facial disfigurement. So my face was asymmetrical. I was blind in my left eye, and I had a disfigured eye. My face was gaping at the bottom. I'd needed to have a lot of corrective surgery when I was born, like from about 3 months old right into my early adulthood. I was in this process of corrective surgery. And as part of that process, when I was about 4 years old, I was gifted an artificial eye, like a plastic shell that would fit over my disfigured eye, and it was painted to look like my normal eye. Mm-hmm. And I was given these dark glasses, these great big dark glasses like this, and they were really, really dark, like sunglasses. And the point, I call that the beginning of my life behind the mask at 4 years old, because they gave them to me to help me blend in, to look more normal, to really hide my facial flaws, and to not stand out so very much. And so that I do call it the beginning of my life behind the mask, because I don't know if we could have known it back then, but I was learning this really powerful lesson in those early days of my life, that if there's something that's different about you, or if there's something that's not right about you, or something that's not normal, or something that doesn't look like everybody else's or isn't like everybody else, then you need to put that thing away. You need to hide it, you need to bury it, you need to make sure that it's not on show, that it's not on view. And that became a really foundational lesson for how I would just go on to live in my life. So I would show up you know, into like what I was going to school at the time. I was in primary school. So I remember one day showing up with my face and the next day showing up with this thing on, you know, just hiding basically. And then that's how I went into further education. That's how I went to university. That's how I went to work. I went to work. I learned in my life that I needed to hide my face. And it was really just my routine. I never questioned it. I didn't think anything of it. But, you know, as I was growing up, I hit this season, it was 2009, I really hit this high level of discontent. Just life. If you look on my life, you'd say, yeah, Dion, she's a high flyer. But I was not content inside. And it felt a bit like I knew I was great, but I found it difficult to show up doing and being the kind of great that I knew I could be. I struggled in relationships. I struggled to really step into my power. Life was just uncomfortable, you know, and it felt like I had one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake simultaneously. It was just not going anywhere really fast. Although, by most people's standards, it would have been called, you know, like it was called high flying. I was in senior leadership. I had, you know, houses, you know, I had all the trappings of the life, but something wasn't peaceful and right on the inside. I was double-minded. And then I got a real wake-up call in that year when I just found myself hitting rock bottom with my hands up in the air saying, God, you know, something's wrong. I don't know why. I'm just not happy. Something's hurting. And then I had this kind of, you know, dark night of the soul, and these questions came to me that perhaps the way that I was feeling in life was related, life and leadership was really related to the fact that I'm hiding, was really related to the fact that I wasn't showing up for real, that was related to the fact that I wasn't being authentic, that I wasn't letting people see the real me. And, you know, back in 2009, it really did start off with me thinking about my face. Like it was about me hiding my face. And I remember being on the floor with my hands up in the air like this, thinking, I need to find a way to show up, let people see my face. But what that turned into over the weeks and months that followed was this desire, was this understanding that actually I wasn't just hiding my face, I was hiding all sorts of parts of me. And I wasn't just, you know, not letting people see this, I was not letting people see the real me. I was not being authentic. I was not speaking my truth. I was not doing what I was called to do. I wasn't making the kind of difference that I was called to make. And all of this was just this huge revelation that invited me to go on the journey that I now invite my clients to go on, into understanding who they are as women and leaders and change makers, and working out what it means to really show up as that powerhouse of an influencer in her space. So that's how, long story short, that's how I got here.
Gosh, it's quite a story, and thank you for sharing it. Because I think it's quite a brave sharing, but also it leads us into what I wanted to try and learn from you, but was more about being authentic. So maybe we just start by what do we mean? You said a few things there. It's about like showing up and showing not only our real physicality, but speaking our truth.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can add more to just try.
You know what I, on the journey to letting you see my real face, and then discovering that meant that I needed to let you see the real me, I really came into the truth that I had such mixed, double-minded thoughts about who I really am. I was so unsure. I was so double-minded. Like on the inside, there was a part of me that knew I was this smart, powerful leader. I knew that about myself. And then on the other hand, in the world, I struggled to believe that or show up as that. I was double-minded. And I think that when I think about authenticity, I think about the double-minded nature of us. And for me, I love to say that I am a woman in a man's world. I am a Black woman in a white man's world. I am facially different in a beauty obsessed world, and I'm a woman of faith in a secular world, a religion phobic world. And so what happened on my journey was I found that there were all these parts of me that were really core to who I am, that the world told me is second class, is inferior, is not great, is not as good as others, it's not worthy, it's not valuable. And so this is the thinking that comes to mind when I think about authenticity, because what I've had to do on the journey to stepping into my power and to claiming my authority to be who I'm here to be is I've had to do the work to come to terms with who I really am and what and understanding that that's the gift, that if I can show up as the real me, then actually that's the gift. That's authenticity is a gift to the world. Authenticity is the biggest thing that you can do for your neighbor. It's the biggest thing that you can do for the people that we're sharing the planet with, is to show up yourself. Because I've learned on my journey that there's just no spare people. There isn't anybody that hasn't got something of value to give. It's just that we need to come into the awareness of that ourselves and then become masters of that thing that we have to give, which is our true self. And so I don't know if that's making any sense, but it's just so convoluted, this conversation about authenticity, because I love to say that it's the you that God made. That's what I love to say, is authenticity for me means the you that God made. Because I think that oftentimes when we talk about authenticity, what people really mean is that they'll just tell you how they're feeling, like they'll just tell it like it is, that they're just like, what you see is what you get, but for me, I've learned that authenticity, it means that who you are in thought and who you are in words and who you are in your actions must line up with the truth of who you are. And the truth of who we all are is an expression of love. The truth of who we all are is a contributor, a citizen, a contributing citizen. This is the truth of who we all are. And so for me, authenticity is not so much about telling people just telling people what you think of them and giving them a piece of your mind. For me, authenticity talks about finding your place as a contributing citizen and showing up in your power as that person. That's what it means for me.
Oh, it's a lovely definition. I often talk about us not the same as being transparent, which is what you're saying, like just sharing whatever you're feeling in that moment, and that's not always the most graceful.
I think that there's a theme right now, especially in this social media culture, that authenticity means sharing really personal information, or being unabashed about what you tell people, and not having any privacy, and it just transparency. But for me, it's way deeper than that, and there's a responsibility that comes with authenticity, because it requires us to be doing the work, to be developing this gift for contribution in the world.
And I love how you said a part of it is us finding peace with all the different aspects of ourselves and the truth of it, like and then being able to stand in that truth as you engage with other people and contribute. So you speak a lot also about finding your authentic voice. So how does that fit in then to this being at peace with yourself and contributing?
So I work with women in senior leadership. That's my role. So my clients are CEOs, they're directors, they're heads, they're board level leaders, and I feel like I should say this here. I do this work because I really believe that boards can change our world, that boards can make society better, because what happens in the boardroom affects what's happening in the organization. What's happening in the organization affects what's happening in the industry, and what's happening in the industry affects what's happening in the nations. We can see that very rife in South Africa right now, that that industry really plays a big part on what's happening with real people's lives. And so it really matters who's in those rooms. It really matters who's leading. It really matters who's at the table. And I remember sitting at the table in this phase of my life when I was double-minded, and caring deeply about the issues, caring deeply about the mission of the organization, caring deeply that we should do better and close inequality gaps, and bring forth equity and foster inclusion. And yet I really struggled to use my activist voice and my humanitarian heart and my human sense that that we needed to do better in this space. I just struggled so hard. It's like in that culture there's this very tacit, invisible understanding that you don't bring yourself you don't bring your voice. You say what everybody else is saying. You nod, you smile, you use the same words, you use the same rhetoric, you just you leave yourself at the door, and you go in and you sort of turn into this robot, and you function at those important conversations in that way. And what I realized was that things are never going to change if we don't decide that we're not going to do that anymore. If we're not going to decide that we're going to speak up and say, no, this can't continue, or say, we need to do something different, or say, this isn't working, or say, that's wrong, or no, this is what's right, or this is what I think, or this is my ideas, or this is what I've learned on the journey. Like, we need to be liberated to be able to bring that kind of insight to those really important conversations that are shaping culture, that are deciphering data, that are setting priorities and agendas, that are making decisions that affect real people's lives. Imagine if we had boards filled with people who were able to speak their truth and challenge what's not working. So, this is a real passion of mine. I really think that what the world is really longing for right now are people with doing the work to develop themselves, their ideas, their voice, their insights, their professional conclusions, and ready to answer the call to make a difference in their world through their work or through wherever they're positioned, whether that's in the home or in the boardroom, and then be free to speak authentically with that voice. That I think that's what we're waiting on. I think that we're waiting on that revolution to take place. And that's why I say it's critical that we do this work to find who we really are authentically, and to use that to become masters of using that voice.
And Dion, so you were saying we need this revolution to happen where people are speaking their truth more. And I wanted to ask you, what are some of the conditions then that will help that? So you said one is people need to do their own personal work to understand themselves and to find that voice. Are there any other conditions?
Yeah, so I think that I teach my clients that there are three things that need to happen for this journey to begin, of finding yourself and mastering showing up and speaking up as yourself. The first one is that you have to set the intention.
True.
So when I was on the floor with my hands up in the air, just realizing that life wasn't working for me and that I needed something else, and really having the revelation that I wasn't being honest about the way that I was showing up. I wasn't using my real voice. I wasn't letting people see the real me. When I was realizing that, I could have just gotten up and just carried on with life, but I made a decision that I was going to, that was not okay for me. That I wanted to find a way to express myself for real. I wanted to go on this journey of understanding who I was. I remember getting a coach and a counselor and getting help to do this. And I remember a coach saying to me, he said, so who are you? And I remember the tears coming down my face because I just didn't know.
Oh.
I just thought, I don't know. I don't know what's real and what's not real. I just didn't know. So I think setting the intention to go on this journey of finding out, because it really is a journey. It is an inquiry. It takes effort. It takes, you need to be intentional about this journey. There's so many messages about who we are based on what we look like, based on our voice, our size, where we live, there's so much information about who we are that most of it is what I call BFDLs, big fat dirty lies. And we need to be able to decipher. So intention is definitely the first step. So the second step then is, for me, is commitment. So I'm in it for the long haul. So this is something that you have to just commit to. I'm still on this journey of finding out more and more about who I am, why I'm here, what I'm here to do. And it's not a linear path. It's not even really a geographical path. It's a time and space path. It's a very personal, very profound path. And I think that the journey it comprises of hills and gullies. It's windy, it's convoluted, it's complex. It's a complex personal exploration journey and development journey. And so I say to my clients, you have to be in it for the long haul. You have to decide that you're going to stick with this, that is not only is it your intention, but you are committed to staying the course, to falling down 7 times and getting up 8. You're committed to look at the hard stuff. You're committing to stay with it, even when it feels like this is too hard or it's costing too much. Some of the things that you're going to have to let go of. It's not easy. This journey is a challenging one, and because it requires you to face some things about yourself and about the way you've lived and about the way you show up in the world, and it requires you to see things that is not so easy to see. So commitment for the long haul is definitely the third one, and there are five commitments in particular. One is that you must commit to a paradigm shift. You must commit to having the way that you see the world and the way that you see yourself really pulled from underneath you. And so that's the first thing. That's really tough and it's ongoing. And then you must commit to ownership. And what I mean by that, you must be prepared to commit to the fact that you have this power that is supposed to be making something happen in the world. I remember really knowing that on one hand and not knowing it, like the world told me that was just not true about me. Well, I had to come into this ownership of this power, that see myself as a powerful woman, see myself as a powerful leader and a powerful change maker. You have to own that. You have to really own that authority. The authority to use your voice, own your authority to speak up, own your authority to be in the room, to go for it, to be at the very top, to be where you're supposed to be. You have to own that, because often the world is going to tell you it's not true, but you have to know it's true. You have to own it. And the third thing you have to own is your responsibility, that we are called, like each one of us is called to be a citizen, a contributing citizen, making a difference, a real difference. And I think that's what ownership really means. We need to own those things, and that takes commitment. Third Commitment for me is owning your wisdom. So this is a big one for us as women, especially leaders, that, you know, when we go in, we put these masks on, we go in, we nod, we say what everybody else is saying, we sound clones like of the status quo. We just do what everybody else is doing, nod like everybody else. But, you know, I've had discovered the need to commit to understanding what you really think about things. Excuse me. Understanding your wisdom, understanding your insights, your ideas, and organizing those. But we have to commit to doing the work, to becoming fluent in our own point of view. We have to craft a well thought out, carefully put together professional point of view that's rooted in our wisdom, the things that we've known. Like, I see women who have been in their industry for decades, and they just don't, they feel like they don't know, but they know so much that needs to be discussed right now. We need to organize, we need to commit to organizing our wisdom, for sharing, for contributing. Our wisdom, the world is aching and crying out for our wisdom.
Yeah.
So we need to commit to wisdom. We need to commit to expression of that wisdom. So we need to, I like to say, we need to work at becoming potent presenters. We need to work at using our voice, with our true voice. We need to work at being able to grab people's attention and hold people's attention. And we need to learn how to take what's inside of us and package it so that we can express it in a way that people are compelled by, that people are interested in, that people want to listen to, you know. And we can do this. Like, there's so many ways. We were talking about the internet just earlier on. You know, there's so many ways to get your voice out there, to express yourself, to express your ideas. But oftentimes, you know, like they say that public speaking is like as terrifying as dying and all of the other big stuff. I can't stay that way, because that wisdom needs to be expressed in order to be able to make the difference. So definitely expression. And then revolution. I don't know if you've realized, but I've been spelling power. So P for paradigm shifting, O for ownership, W for wisdom, yeah, and E for expression. And now R, I call it revolution. Now, revolution is about a vision for what you want to see changed, a vision for what you know can't continue, for what you know needs to do a full 180. Revolution is about radical shifts, radical change, radical transformation. You know, it's about what is it that you see. I want to say to everyone listening to this that you have a right to have ambition for your world. You have a right to want to call the shots about the way that things need to be, or what needs to improve, or what needs to transform in your home, in your industry, and in your world. We have a right, but oftentimes we just watching everybody else do it over there, and we don't see ourselves as part of that. And I think it's time to understand that authentically we were born to be part of that. And so understanding what kind of revolution you want to see in the world is critical. Yeah. And then finally, so that's commitment. So we set the intention and we commit, we are steadfast in our commitment. And the third thing is that we get strategic. That, you know, we can think about this stuff all day long, but at the end of the day, what we really need are people who are going to act, people who are going to stand up, take a stand, bring yourself to the table, use your voice, go for that position, you know. And that takes some planning. You know, that's my work, is around strategic thinking about what's required to move from here to there. You know, somebody who will challenge you. Strategic conversations is the key to really helping you to progress along your own unique power path. Yeah.
Oh, and I can hear you just like really applying everything you've just said.
Yeah.
in how you've explained that. It's like so powerful. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You know, and I think this is the work that I've been doing, the work that I support my clients to do, is the work that I believe that we're all being called to do right now, in terms of preparing to take our place authentically in leadership, wherever it is that we're leading. So yeah, I think it's a responsibility.
It is, and I have a real keen interest in courage. I wanted to ask you how do you understand or see courage, and how it fits in with us being authentic?
So it's critical, isn't it? Because, you know, I think back to that time when I was on the floor with my hands up in the air, realizing that I was being called by life to show up for real. I realized that the pain in my heart was related to the hiding. And yet I had been, back in 2009, I was talking about my face, and I had not let anybody see my face outside of it. You know, I like to say, you know, I had intimate relationships with people. I just kept my glasses on the whole time, because I just got so used to not being seen, my face not being seen. And when I made up my mind that needed to change, just like some of the people that are watching this are realizing, shoot, it really is time for me to show up more. It's really time for me to speak up more. It's really time for me to take a stand and to let people understand what I think, that my views are important, that what I have to bring is valuable. And realizing that, and then deciding that you're going to move forward with that, that's the most courageous thing that you, I mean, it's scary. It's terrifying. I remember how it felt when it was just, I was thinking just about how I'm going to let people look at my face without my artificial eye and dark glasses. And I mean, I had to go and get help to do it. I had to get a coach, and I had to get a counselor, and I had to explore my fears that people would vomit at the sight of me. I had to explore my fear that I was going to face, you know, real hate. It just felt that way, and those thoughts were real in my mind. And yet it took every ounce of courage that I could find to decide that, despite feeling like this, I'm going to find a way for you to see my face, and then to see me, and then to see more of me, and then to evolve into the me that I don't even know yet. Like, all of this takes courage. And so I think they're inextricably linked. Showing up for real and being authentic, and taking the responsibility for that authenticity, and developing the you that you're showing to the world. Like, there's no way to do it without courage.
Yes. Sure. So another area that I'm also interested in is around failure and our fear of failing. So I know we spoke a lot about being authentic and just showing up, but even that, we can authentically make mistakes. Things cannot turn out the way they go. So just a bit about how you see failure and dealing with it.
Yeah, I think that failure is our biggest fear. You know, I think we're really afraid. I work with women in leadership, and we're really smart, and we know a lot, and we're powerful. But the thing that fills our mind is the fear of getting something wrong, the fear of making a mistake, the fear of looking like a fool, the fear of, you know, ridicule or even rejection. Like, we're so petrified of getting things wrong. And this is a real problem, because in order to master our authentic selves, we need to be on a growth journey, and growth doesn't take place without mistakes. Growth doesn't take place without failure and falling down and messing up. So a big part of what we're talking about in this conversation, and what your work is all about, is really coming to the place of permission to make mistakes. permission to not be liked, permission to be ridiculed, permission to be laughed at, permission to be to just not be acceptable in their sight. Like, there's something really powerful about the process of this work that I've been talking about, around preparing yourself so that you know you, that you like you, that you're okay with not being the finished article right now, because you know that you're on the journey of growth, of becoming, of evolving and maturing. Like, we've got to give ourselves that. We've got to come to a place that is work. It's just work. We've got to take out the programming that says that, you know, if you're going to be in the in crowd, you don't make mistakes. If you're going to be in the clique, then you're perfect, that you're superior, you're high and lifted up. You know, like, this is a big fat lie that served its purpose when certain people had dominion over other people. But no one's got dominion over us anymore. No one's got dominion over anybody. And so you need to free yourself from that, from those shackles of those lies that say that if you want to feel like you're somebody, that means you shouldn't be making mistakes. That's bullshit.
Because as you said, the only way we learn and grow is by trying something, getting it wrong, and learning from that to do a little bit better the next time, and then continue on that journey.
But it's so much work, you know. I think that becoming, self-improvement, becoming, self-transformation, leadership development, all of this, more than about learning stuff, it's more about unlearning stuff. Because the truth is, we are powerful. The truth is that we are, you know, we are knowledgeable, and we've got so much to offer. But there's all of these layers in front that the journey we need to get intentional about, we need to get committed to, and we need to get strategic about, you know, unlearning.
And it's really worth it. I know we're talking about how much work it is, but I cannot think of a more rewarding way of living, really.
It's necessary. I don't know, it feels like it's how you breathe differently when you begin to get strength, when you strengthen your authenticity muscle, when you close the authenticity gap in your own life. You breathe differently. Like, the things that used to bother you don't bother you so much anymore. It's not a walk in the park. Life's still challenging, life's still hard, you know, things still hurt, you know, still have burdens and problems and all the rest of it. But there's just an ease of breath. That's how it feels to me. Just an ease of being when you grow in this work. Everybody needs to do this work.
Yes. And another bit of work that I also am very interested in is around us having more courageous conversations. And I think you touch on that, because part of having courageous conversations is being true and speaking our truth in that. But it is a very difficult environment. So I wanted to ask you if there was maybe you could think of the last time you had a courageous conversation yourself. So getting a bit more personal, like a conversation that really counted for you.
Well, it's a kind of an unfair question for me, because I am a coach and I'm a strategic ally to some incredible women who are at the top of their game. And at the top of their game, there are as you rise up the ranks, there are fewer and fewer people who are prepared to challenge you or to tell you the truth, really. So I think I just spend my days having courageous conversations, because I know that the truth is where it's at. You know, that we have blind spots, we have things that are difficult to face, that we must face, that we must begin to see, that we must begin to enlarge our vision about what's really going on here. And so courageous conversations are a critical part of our own development. And what I found is, when I was a midwife, did I tell you I was a midwife for a very long time? I used to help women have babies. So really, literally thousands of babies have come into the world through my hands. And
Wow.
caring for women in labor was a real great place to learn about courageous conversations, because it's a painful process. Labor and childbirth is a really painful process. And I trained in the days before epidurals, before women were numb through labor. So it was a challenging ordeal to go through labor. And I remember as a student and growing into a midwife, this thing that would happen regularly, where a woman would find they'll be laboring for a long time, be really tired, be really exhausted. It's not finished yet. There's more time to go. And then she'd get herself into a position, especially when it was getting quite near to the delivery. And she'd get herself into the position where she just felt like, oh God, that this feels good. This position feels good right now. I like it here. Like, just leave me alone. Don't touch me. And she could go right into herself. And on those occasions, sometimes the position that woman would choose would be really bad for the baby. So the baby would be showing signs that they don't like the mother in this position. So my job would be to tell that woman that I know you feel comfortable there. I know that you're tired and that you just want this to be finished, but actually we need to get you to move to a different position. And these women, or something else, or they would have to have an examination when they didn't want to, or something else. And these women would look with steely, like there was something very specific being communicated with the way that they would look at me in that moment. And it would make, sometimes I would find myself dreading saying you have to move, or you have to be examined, or I would find myself dreading it. And with my coach, I would say, I'm finding this. And when we dug into it, it was because there was a part of me that was really afraid of the repercussion of saying that, really afraid of their disapproval, really afraid of how they would dislike me, or maybe they would attack me. And there was this response, an energetic response happening inside of me, in preempting that conversation, in preempting calling them into something else. And when I started to see it clearly, what I realized was I needed to get that place in me handled, because me and this woman, we're in partnership, and we've got this agreement to get somewhere safe. And she's doing her bit, but I've got to do mine too. And sometimes that means that we're going to have to find a way to do things that we don't really want to do, or say things that we don't really want to say, or experience things that we don't really want to experience, but we need to commit to it because of where we've decided that we're going together. And I think that that's the thing about courageous conversations. Like, sometimes, all the time, they need to be because we're going somewhere. They need to be purposeful conversations that mean something to the contract that we have, that means something to the mission. Hey, we want you and this baby to get, I want you to be sat in the bed in a few hours holding this baby, smiling. And if we're going to get there, I know you're comfortable right here, right now, but it's not working for that end. For that end, we need to do something that we don't want to do. We have to say something we don't want to say. And this, I think, is the key to courageous conversation. It can feel scary about what might happen if we say it, but we have to have a bigger reason to say it.
Yeah. And so that's on us saying it. Would you have a tip for anyone receiving it?
I was saying the same thing. I think, if we look at that scenario on labor ward, there's a contract. There is a pre agreed contract. There's an agreement that I'm going to be with you, and we're going to go on this journey together, because you bring something to the table and I bring something to the table, and we're going to partner. And that is, again, just as I'm saying it, I'm thinking it applies in marriage. It applies in any relationship. If you've got this contract and agreement that you're going to go somewhere, then it's because you each bring something distinct that's going to make the journey work. And so there's not always going to be agreement. It's not always going to be, think one mind about what this means, but there needs to be permission in the relationship that respectfully, if I'm going to play my part in this, that I need you to be aware of this. If I'm going to play my part in this, then I need to say this, or I need to hear this. I need to hear this. And that's what would happen with the women. They'd look at me steely. Some of them would tell me choice words. But there's, and I would have to accept that response, and then let's get on with the changing position. Let's get on. So it's give and take.
Yeah, some wonderful tips there that we can apply to so many areas.
Yeah.
Dion, as we start to wrap up now, how can people get hold of you if they want to learn more or to work with you, perhaps?
I really love to connection. Connection is a top priority of mine. So anybody watching this and would love to just connect, let me know what they're hearing, how they're receiving this. I love connection. So you can do two things. One is, in social media land, I hang out every day on LinkedIn. So my name, Dion Johnson, board level leadership. That's what I stand for in LinkedIn. So in LinkedIn land, so you can find me there, Dion Johnson, board level leadership, and connect at dionjohnson.com. That's my email address, connect at dionjohnson.com. So please send me a line. And if you want to know more about what I think about authenticity and courage and stepping into more of who you are being called to be, then consider picking up a copy of my book, Influential Woman. It was a real tough thing, labor of love to write the book, but I wrote it because I really believe in the revolution that we're about to lead. Absolutely.
So I'll put all those details also in the show notes below this. So just one last question for you is, what is the conversation that you believe we need to be having more of today that would make the world a better place?
Well, I think we've really spent the last hour talking about the conversation that we have with ourselves. But I really think that in my work, what I want to see more of is are people taking a stand and challenging what they know to be wrong in their space, in their professional domains. Because that's how, there's a quote that says, and I'm going to butcher it, but it says something like, the only thing required for evil to persist is when good men and women do and say nothing. And so that's what I every industry, I would go so far to say, is every organization is functioning with half-truths and blatant lies and unfair practices and just things that aren't working anymore, things that are obsolete, things that just aren't serving the greater good anymore. And so the conversation that I want to see us get ready for is those women who are on the inside, those people who are on the inside, sat at those tables and even reporting, in the reporting system, being able to say, hey, we can't keep doing this. This is not right. This is wrong. There's another way. I have some ideas about a new approach. Like, that's the conversation that I really, that's what my work is really all about.
And we do need more of that specific courageous conversation. So thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else, any other closing thoughts that you have?
I think you'd have to be living at the bottom of the ocean in a cave somewhere to not realize that something's up, that this isn't business as usual. The world, like the entire planet, is shaking. and groaning for something else. And I think that what it's groaning for is a new type of leadership. And so the thought that I really want to end on is that that new type of leader, that new breed of leader, you, you know, let's find our place. Let's find our place and unmask our faces and unlock our voices and show up making a difference.
Beautiful. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
I'm Talana Simpson, and this has been Let's Talk Courageous Communication. If you would like to follow us, please find our website at innercoaching.co.za/talk communication, as well as on all the socials. And I look forward to connecting with you and having more courageous conversations with our authentic voices.